Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, and those who are following this broadcast. Welcome to another edition of the Executive Mansion's regular press briefing. No matter where you are, however you're listening, the different platforms, we like to welcome you to this press briefing. Today we are going to talk to you about a number of things, the happenings and activities of the President during the course of the week, his engagements, his key meetings, as well as briefing from the Cabinet. As you know, on yesterday, the President had his second Cabinet meeting. So the President week, as always, have been very busy. The President ended last week and with the visitation to participate in the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Center activities, and he spoke there and gave his commitment and support to the center, the Women's Center and the Women's House that Madam Sirleaf is working on through her foundation. As you can recall, that the foundation turned exactly 5 years, and His Excellency President Joseph Joman Boakai spoke at the occasion. The President also, beginning of the week, attended the opening of the Honorable Supreme Court. As you know, the Supreme Court has 2 terms of court, the October and March terms, and he attended and participated at the opening where he spoke to members of the judiciary and members of the Supreme Court bench to really look at the importance of the dispensation of justice without fear, favor, or delay. And the President was happy to also be there to speak and interact with justices. Prior to that, and over the same very weekend, His Excellency also had an engagement with an envoy, the Tanzania President, also a former President of Tanzania. That engagement was very well attended with the other delegation, and the President did extend his appreciation to the President of Tanzania, which is the current President of Tanzania, for the delegation that was sent to him to discuss a number of things. Paramount was collaboration and support for the 2 countries. As you know, the President also commemorated the Decoration Day with a visitation to cemeteries across Montserrado, specifically at the grave site of the late former President William P.S. Tubman at the Centennial Memorial Pavilion, as well as the visitation on Camp Johnson Road, where it holds the remains of former President Daniel B. Warner. And also, the President did visit the Tupo Road Memorial Cemetery, where victims of the Liberian Civil War, some victims, I may say, of the Liberian Civil War, were buried in mass graves. Having completed that particular activity, the President also had substantive continuation of the previous Cabinet meeting, but this time it focused on key components, particularly on collaboration and communication, as well as coordination within the government and across agencies of government, but also key security briefing from the team at the Ministry of Justice, especially the Minister of Justice. The President has also made a number of appointments, and I will list to you shortly, affecting different agencies, beginning with the Ministry of Justice, President has appointed Councillor John D. Mia as County Attorney for Nimba County, Anthony Frank Suku Sr., County Attorney for Sino County, Councillor Gabriel G. Ule, County Attorney for Grand Coup County, Councillor J. Arthur Sumo, County Attorney for Lofa County, Councillor Pato Jaba, County Attorney for Bomi County, Councillor Yongpao R.G. Day, County Attorney for Grand Cape Mount County, Councillor Arthur M.S. Washington, County Attorney for Bapolu County, and Councillor Joshua G.K. Odoy, County Attorney of Maryland County. The President also have appointed Mr. Abner W. Yonley as the Executive Director and Principal Deputy for the Liberia Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. And this appointment is based on Mr. Yonley's confidence, but more importantly, his experience within the aviation sector. The President has also appointed Mr. J. Sarah Sengwe Sr. as Acting Director General of the National Fisheries and Agriculture Authority, NAFA, and his appointment is based on recommendation from the Board of Directors of the authority. And finally, His Excellency President Joseph Imam Boakai also have appointed as Managing Director Mr. Mohammed M. Sharif, Managing Director of the Liberia Electricity Corporation. These appointments, where necessary, will go through Senate confirmation, and upon the confirmation of the Liberian Senate, the appointment will duly take effect. Some of the appointments, as I've mentioned, they are due for Senate confirmation. And the President is encouraging the Liberian Senate to effectuate proceedings consonant with the appointment or the conclusion of these, so that these qualified Liberians and individuals with explicit confidence from the President are able to continue the workings. As you can recall, the President, following the first cabinet meeting, did call for the investigation of some cold cases, and the President has received briefing from those. But prior to that, on yesterday, the President did receive a courtesy visit from the Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament, and as a guest of his colleagues of the legislature. The Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament visited His Excellency, and they had a discussion on a number of different issues. Prominent among the discussion was our collaboration, and as you all know, His Excellency was in Ghana to attend the inauguration ceremony of the President, the Ghanaian President, His Excellency Mahama, John Mahama, and he was also there in December of last year. So this visit also shows the collaboration between Ghana and Liberia and the friendly relationship the two countries have shared over the years. And this visit also talked about enhancing ECOWAS cooperation within the region, particularly on peacekeeping. He also expressed his appreciation to the President for the reception he received, and looks forward to future engagement. So on the opening of the cases, the President received briefing from his team at the Ministry of Justice that the cases, as he instructed them, the cases have been opened, and that the team at the Ministry of Justice are actively pursuing information relations to ensuring that the matter is brought back, especially on that matter. The President also received briefing on the upcoming Nimba County by-elections and the security strength and the NEC's support or willingness or strength in terms of organizing the elections. And that is happening, and things are under control or being ready for that elections. And it's encouraging all citizens of Nimba to engage the electoral process with the fairness, freeness, and in a peaceful manner, as this interest is to ensure that all of our country, there peace everywhere. The President also received some briefing around situation that is happening in Salala, at the Salala rubber plantation, and which is on top of it. The issue has been under control, and workings in relations to the Ministry of Justice and what they're currently doing is actively being pursued. Investigation into the 60 million and the government auditor's death, as well as human trafficking in Grangede and Nimba counties, as I've mentioned, have resumed. On the issue of the Capitol building arson, as you all can recall, when the situation took place, the President was clear on needing to ensure that the investigation happened and that anyone found culpable will face the full weight of the law. And his team has briefed him that it's an active investigation ongoing. And as soon as, and in fact, the U.S. forensic experts in arson have completed their work and submitted a report, and the team is seriously looking at it and will be able to give update on that. But it's an active investigation ongoing, and he's following it through his team from the Ministry of Justice and his legal team. On the issue of investigation, particularly on corruption cases, the President has received information that the Liberia Telecommunications Authority, the Liberia Refugee Repatriation Settlement Commission, as well as the National Oil Company of Liberia. As you all know, these are active investigations ongoing, and upon the conclusion and update from the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, processes leading to ensuring that justice is served will be undertaken. As at yet, those discussions or investigations are with the LACC pending conclusion. So far, their Access Recovery Task Force is in full swing. As you all know, last week the President did extend the executive order that ended to give the Access Recovery and Property Retrieval Task Force an additional 1 year to be able to ensure that the investigation that they started, the cases that they have highlighted so far, and that the issues that they have seen so far, they're able to ensure that they can draw up indictment and that the cases can actively begin, those that are indictable offenses and those that need direct retrieval, or those that the accused are, following up with the investigation or are complying with the investigation that it happens. But these are active, matters are happening. So we're happy to update you all that things are moving, that His Excellency is very concerned and happy that with the progress so far, and that he is going to do everything in his power to ensure that his promises to the Liberian people, the workings that he intends to do, what he's doing every day, and his promises are met. So far, thank you all so much. I look forward to taking your questions should you have any. Good afternoon. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. My name is Joseph Daniels, and I report for OPFM. Two questions quickly. The first one, you mentioned about investigations that are ongoing in relation to corruption. One of those cases you didn't mention, maybe you could talk about, it's the suspension of NAFA boss, Emma Glasgow. Madam Glasgow has said that since her suspension is going to a month, and she has received no invitation for any form of investigation as to what she was accused of. Can you speak to that particular situation? Has she been invited? Is the investigation also ongoing? Who are those conducting the investigation? And also, President Walker spoke about the unemployment rate in the country yesterday, talking about violence, all of those. Is the president disappointed in the slow pace of his administration to deliver to especially the young people?
Thank you. For me, it's my pleasure being here for the very first time at this press briefing. My name is Moses. I come from the BBC. Two quick questions. The first one has to do with the update from the Ministry of Justice as relates to the death of the auditors. Have there been people of interest since the President asked the Justice Ministry and justice actors to get involved in making sure these investigations are concluded? Today is just the close of the President's suspension of officials, or 400 officials that were suspended for failing to declare their asset. And I guess it concludes today. Do we have any news of people failing to comply, and what are the next steps?
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. My name is Moses Bakola, and I report for Lux FM. So last week, I did ask about a report from the University of Liberia on the Commerce Inspector General, John Cooper. And he said the President has been briefed, and once he receives a briefing from the university, he would take appropriate action as the President being briefed by the university. Two, just running through the national budget, want to know what projects will the President be undertaking in this fiscal year, because there's some 149,000 allotted for presidential projects.
That's it for now.
Okay, thank you. And I will start with your last question, Moses, on what project. So within the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, there is a Minister of State for Special Services, and projects relating to presidential activities. Once is approved, and once the President says this is what he wants to work on and the team approve it, is ready for implementation, that information will happen. And the thing with the budget and the allocation of the resources, yes, the budget is a plan, and once it is planned, and once there are resources based on revenue generation, once the resources are available and allotment is made, then you are prepared already to implement those. So sometimes when you see the budget numbers, it doesn't mean there are resources that are lying down ready for implementation. Especially now that there are a number of different things happening, and last week, as you can recall, we did talk lengthily about USAIDs and the drawdown, and as you can tell, officially, I think it was this week or yesterday, that the US government had officially canceled about 85% or so of all of USAID funding. So that means what we're doing now as a government is to recalibrate. So even with the budget conversation now, there are discussions around readjustment, especially to those critical sectors that need support, additional support. And as you know, there are a number of Liberians who are working in those international organizations who are being laid off or are already, have been sacked, if you will, and they too, their consideration on, what to do, especially when talking about the employment context and where we are. So especially on the readjustment of budget, there will be time that you see, especially now that the challenges where there's a need to do some adjustments here and there. On the comments inspector, the president and I spoke this week, and I have now received an indication that he was briefed by the University of Liberia team as to the action or activities of what's happening with that. So once I receive the signal that yes, he was briefed or he's informed or hear the actions or recommendation of the next step to do, I will definitely give you. But I did not receive that impression or information that he was informed or he's been giving specific recommendation on, yes, here we are, this is what's happening, these are the actions we've taken, we set up a committee, the committee reported, and these were the recommendations, and this is what we've done, and here are the information. So once we get to that conclusion, we'll definitely inform all of you. So on the issue of so we're going from bottom top. So on the issue of the 400 officials, I think that's a very important question and access declaration. Currently, we've not had the full briefing from LACC as at yet as to who on that list have complied and who's outstanding. When LACC gives the president that update, he will definitely share and then will inform you all. And I will also be reaching out to the president again to see where we are on it and what is the next action is going to take, especially those officials who haven't been notified, having served the suspension, and are yet to declare the access. Whatever action the president takes, it will all be communicated to. On the reopening of the cases, on the death of the auditors, as you know, Moses, on cold cases in a legal terminology, meaning cases that died now or probably ended in a way, to reopen them, it requires a lot of active investigation. And since the president did mandate the last cabinet, the justice minister and his team to reopen the cases and investigate, he updated the president that that has happened, meaning that the file have been taken from wherever bottom of the folder it is to come back on top to go through and see where the issues were and what were the information. But because the active investigation, there is certain components of where the case is at the moment that are still classified, and once they're declassified, you all will be informed from that. On the issue of the employment rate and whether or not the president is disappointed in the slow pace of his administration, well, the president is not disappointed in the slow pace of the administration or what he's doing. The president have asked his ministers and cabinet members to really expedite some of the things that they're doing. As you know, we did talk to you all about the employment program that started, the recruitment. In fact, the Minister of Youth and Sport and the team that's in charge of the recruitment of young people for the temporary jobs that's currently being offered, they have sent out an application with SOEs for about, they wanted at least 700 people to do jobs, including sanitary jobs, other jobs in the informal sector. However, the application was for about 700. They had over 1,500 or 15,000 actually, 15,000 applications, and out of that, they managed to at least recruit about 1,000. But the plan of this recruitment is not just a one-time, and it's not just based in Montserrat. The plan is to do it across the country, but to also do it regularly, say at least twice a year, to do this kind of, especially for young people who are unemployed but are not in the formal sector or have limited education. And however, you won't believe, Joseph, there are people who, as I'm told, of the level of master's degree who have also applied. It tells you that the issue of unemployment is high amongst young people. And the president is really clear. Besides just this opportunity, the president has mandated his team working in the youth sector to really work hard. In fact, I'm not show, I want to share that because it's a very exciting news about what's going to happen with the Ministry of Youth and Sport. They're planning, working with the Ministry of Finance, Development Planning, and others to launch a major youth program. And that program, I can tell you, will really be a game changer because it's not only going to look at few young persons, it's going to go across the country, but it's something that will be worth, the investment, because unemployment, the president knows, is high, especially amongst young people. He always mentioned on the connectivity or the connection between unemployment and the security sector for the young people, because there's a parlance we say an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So he's working and thinking every day on mechanisms and ways in which he's able to find opportunities for job creation for young people, and he's working on that along with his youth employment team. On the issue of the NAFA bus, as we've said a number of times that, as you know, the president just today announced the acting head of NAFA, Mr. J. Cyrus Sigbe, and the investigation is still on. And again, investigations take on different forms. It doesn't mean if they didn't call you today, they're not going to call you tomorrow. And if you are suspended on something, the reason that you were suspended for, the person who appointed you explain the reasons, and that the investigation will take place. As to where the investigation started, as you may know, the Office of the Ombudsman was in charge of the preliminary investigation, and it still is. And upon their conclusion, they're going to forward the information to the president. And yes, the suspension is still on, and the investigation is active, because the investigation, again, it's not just by calling you. It's possible there are paper trails, it's possible there are other forms of investigation that's ongoing, and they're going to continue on that level until the investigation is brought to finality. One key aspect that I can tell you that was discussed in yesterday's meeting, and I know most of you, it has been some of your interest as to timelines and the swiftness of some of the conversation or actions or investigation. The president is keen. In fact, they did set up entire metrics on the timeline on when certain things should happen. So I can assure you that those investigations that are pending, specific timelines have been communicated to the specific agencies, and will inform you again what action to be taken, especially beginning with this access declaration, to know what next and what's going to happen. And it's encouraging all of us to ensure that, especially those institutions who are in charge of those investigations, are doing their part, the swiftness and the importance of it, because the Liberian people want to know, what's happening and when this is going to happen. We'll take another round of questions, and then we call it good.
Okay.
Yes, Princess.
Okay, I'm Princess Kusuma, and I report for KMTV. So, Madam Witness, it has been speculated that President Boakai has given Speaker Poon a 15-day deadline to resolve the ongoing issue at the legislature. Do you care to confirm that?
Thank you. I'd like to make a follow-up on a few things he said. One is the issue of the president taking action on people who are alleged of committing acts of corruption. The president, he also mentioned the LTA, and one of those implicated into the audit report that the president used to suspend the former officials or the suspended official whatsoever from the LTA is the current head of the LTA, so Abdullah Kamara, is implicated in that audit report. Why has the president refused to take action against him despite being implicated in the audit report? Secondly, you said the president is waiting for a brief from the University of Liberia on the issue of Don Cooper. Is it
Declaration Day does not mean that the plan is not to do all of that. So the bigger picture, so the identification, as you talk about the appalling state, the committee in charge will ensure all of the former presidents who have passed Their graves are identified. Their graves are re-looked at. In fact, there's a bigger conversation, in fact, even thinking on whether there's a need to institute a bigger presidential memorial where all of our presidents will be laid or be buried there, so that as a country, we gave our presidents that, but that's another level of conversation that's still in its embryonic state. But I'm just mentioning this to mean that President Boakai is very concerned about telling our story, especially honoring our leaders, not only Liberians, but also people who have served Liberia. For example, he also set up a committee to remember ECOMA and their contribution to our peace process. ECOMA soldiers died while helping to help us with our peace process, as well as other Liberians. So it's a whole line of things that the president is intending to do, and not just because there are several presidents who have passed, and their graves are different places. And because Decoration Day is shorter time, just one day, it's impossible to go and visit all the different graves that are available. So the places he visited there just for that symbolic nature, to show that the country have not forgotten her past. The country have not forgotten the people who stood for her and her compatriots who passed away, especially even going to the mass graves of Liberians, who died because of the Civil War. So no, the president didn't just visit, or he didn't, not that he intended to not visit everyone. If he left for President Boakai alone, he wants to do the whole 9 years to visit all of the presidents, the former president grave site, and even give those grave sites befitting presence, so that when you see it, it's a memorial, it's a place for a former president who served the country. So it wasn't any intent of not doing that. On the question of the motorcyclists, whether there's any message for them. The issue of motorcycle, and I was telling someone this the other day on one of the radio stations, the president empathizes with the young people who are using the motorcycle to make ends meet. He's very compassionate about young people. Every day when he's driving around town and sees young people in the street on the motorbike, using it for school, using it for other purposes, he's really thinking on what other mechanism, what other employment opportunity can be made available for these young people. Unfortunately, there are elements within the motorcyclist group who, when there are issues, they use violence, they set up roadblocks, they use mob issues, they do all sorts of things. And that has been problematic. And with the Liberian National Police, the team at the Ministry of Justice, the installation of the ban in certain areas. In fact, motorcycle riding is not banned all across the country. There's just a zone, a no-go zone in every part of the world. There are places that they have no-go zone, meaning you cannot go this place. Even now on the motorcyclists, there are even some trucks, there are some vehicles that are not allowed to pass certain areas. So the president is really telling the young people that where it says no-go zone, please do not go there. You can run your traffic in other places that you are allowed to. And he's encouraging the young people to be law-abiding citizens. But most importantly, he's working on mechanisms to ensure that the issue of transportation, especially because they're contributing to the transport sector, and he's encouraging young people to really find other crowds, but more so to invest in the transportation sector. And he's working with the Transit Authority and other people to help us with vehicles to do different things that will help the transport sector. On the issue of whether or not the president is concerned with service delivery, or he's only talking to his ministers, of course the president is very concerned of impacting the country, developing the sectors, and making sure the sectors work. If you just go across the country today, you realize that some of the institutions because where the president took this country from, most of our institutions were broken down. Most of our institutions had challenges. Structures were not there. You go to offices, reporting mechanisms, leadership there, people who are working in silos. Not that it's currently perfect in this system, but I can tell you that the structures are getting in place. Things are moving gradually because before you go to doing the massive things, you have to put in those institutional benchmarks where people know what they're supposed to do and people do what they're supposed to do. Once you set up the institutional structure, and we've talked about this, especially so with the first year being the year to set up things and see where the country is coming from and put those things in place. So Moses, things are happening, they're happening gradually, and things will happen. In fact, some infrastructure projects are already taking roots, especially with the roads. You know, you can see some actions ongoing. The issue of the staple food, because a lot of times people say, oh, the everyday commodity or the bread and butter. The bread and butter issue is our major issue, the rice. Rice price have at least been stabilized. You know, it's not the way it was, you know, fluctuating. And there are lots of energy in the rice sector right now. The Ministry of Agriculture and team looking at investing in the sector, particularly with farmers and putting farmers in different places so that they're able to work in that sector. The cassava diversification of our crops. So things are moving and they will happen gradually. On the issue of whether the president, how strong is the president on the fight against corruption? The fight against corruption is something that this president is keen on. And his actions you've seen so far in a very long time in Liberia when it comes to taking or making sure his people are accountable. The suspension of almost 500 people because they didn't declare their assets and they refused. That's a major step within the fight against corruption. The suspension of officials who were alleged or have been accused of issues or acts of corruption, his action, you know, that he's taking on them. Those are all action he as president have taken, and he's really clear on that. And he said this a number of times, that once you're found corrupt and you're suspended, he's not going to go back to people who recommended him. And we can see people who have been suspended, the investigations are on, until the investigation results are coming up. So he's very clear on it. And you know, Liberia is a gradual process, but I can assure you, every time when we sit with this president and listen to him, when he speaks about Liberia and how he wants to carry this country and how he's going to lead this country, I get inspired every day, even yesterday. And this is something that he's keen on and he's going to work. And he's encouraging his ministers. He's clear on that. On the issue of whether the president is waiting for the University of Liberia, Moses, the president is the president for everyone. He's the president of Liberia. He's the president who will not just listen to speculation. He will not just act, oh, because they say this is, you know, ELTC. And there was a procedure and process that went through, you know, and the university did set up a team to investigate. They've investigated. It will be prudent that the University of Liberia submit, you know, the report and their actions to the office of the president, and he will take action. In fact, this is also in consonance with the CSA team as well, and the president will give direct instructions to what next to happen, and that will be under consideration as soon as possible. So he's not necessarily waiting on the university, but I think the university also needs to do herself, you know, to be able to update the president on some of those actions that they're taking. On the question on LTA, whether the president is refusing to take action. Joseph, I just updated you all that there are institutions that are currently under the limelight, mainly being investigated by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. LTA is one of those. They're being investigated for financial mismanagement of spectrum licensing fees, and they will, once that investigation is concluded, the president will take action on the LTA. So it doesn't have to be, it's not because there's this person there or there's this person not there. Those institutions that are being investigated, there's also the investigation that's of the 25 million in stimulus fund. The mismanagement of that fund is also being investigated. So upon the conclusion of those, you know, the president will take actions, as I've always told all of you here. On the question of the previous question on the speculation or allegation that the president has given the Speaker of the House of Representatives 15 days to solve the problem or he will lose the president's support. I will confirm to all of you here today that the president, being the president of the Republic of Liberia, he meets everyone. He listens to everyone. But at no time did President Boakai give Speaker Poon a 15-day ultimatum to solve the problem. Did they meet? Of course, the president meets everyone, as I've said. Did the president meet former Speaker Fonanti Kofa? Absolutely, the president meets everyone. Has the president met the Chief Justice? Yes, he has. Is he meeting members of the judiciary? Yes, he has. In fact, from the onset of the administration, the president did hold sectorial meetings from religious community to the young people, to members of the executive, members of the judiciary, and the legislature. And as the head of government, as per our constitution, anyone who goes to him that, oh, Mr. President want to meet with you, he opens up and meet with them and listen. But the context of the conversation where, you know, oh, the president say, giving you 15, you know, no, he has not said that to Speaker Poon, but yes, he has engaged. They've been engaging. Speaker Poon with the president many times. Former Speaker Kofa have met the president on many occasions. And even if he wants to meet the president and request a meeting, the president is always open to having a meeting with everyone and anyone. And for the president, the sanctity, the stability of the country is his concern. And he opens up to listen as the elderly statesman. He's willing, and you all can recall, I did also inform you that the president will also have a meeting with former presidents of our country. Because for him, the stability of the country is important. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful Friday.
Follow up, I didn't get it clear.
Which one?
On the issue of if the president has requested an update from the UL, or is only waiting if the UL wants to send in an update.
Oh, the president will not ask people to do their job. He expects everyone to do their job. So you do your job, you follow up with the president. And once the president takes action on Mr. Cooper, you all will definitely be informed. And the president is close to doing that.
We give
Let me be
for one quick follow-up. The issue of corruption cases.
Yes, I did mention, didn't
Yeah, I just want to do a quick follow-up about that. Is the president aware that there's statute of limitation on judicial processes in Liberia? There are cases on the book. GAC has conducted audits. LACC has conducted investigation. The Ministry of Justice also has a role to play. Are we aware of that? 5 years is fast spent. The president may slip off in prosecuting people that allegedly stolen from the Liberian.
So Moses, I will implore you not to be a doomsday, someone who will say, oh, I mean, it's nothing's going to happen to the president. And the good thing about the president, in fact, may I also inform you that the government, the government had over 100 cases within the court, and won all of those cases. That was also reported, just a slip of mind, because now that you talk about it, and those cases were all won by the government prosecutor. The government has also won a major case with the issue of drugs. As you all know, the famous, I think, Japan. The government won that case, and for the president, these are hallmarks. And there are, I think, 2 or 4 cases that are with the ECOWAS court, and the government won 2 of them, and 2 are still pending. I'm bringing this to let you know that on the issue of the justice side, the president has a crack team of justice actor, The current Justice Minister is a legal luminary. He has spent many years being a lawyer and working on several cases. It comes with the experience. The President's legal team, the President's legal advisor, counsel at law, they're all very strong when it comes to law and legality. They understand when you talk about statutes of limitation. They understand when you talk about the need for fast days. But you know, our judiciary, if it's left to only the President or just his lawyer or his legal team, he will just say, hey, my stamp of approval, let's go ahead. But there are process and procedures when it comes to investigation of any matter, including corruption case. And corruption, as you know, it borders on people's integrity, and it borders on, once you accuse, you must be the, and on our jurisprudence, the burden of proof lies on who? The accuser. So once you accuse someone, you have to come with the evidence, come with the fact, and it's a long procedure within the, in fact, sometimes lawyers will tell you in our legal system, cases are adjudged not basically on the substantive nature. Sometimes it's on those technicalities, you know, filing time. But I will assure you and assure the Liberian people, the President is surrounded by strong legal scholars in all the cases that the government is working on. They're coming with the strength on the law that they have. So don't worry. That's why I told you about the timeline that the President has set, because he himself is concerned with the timeline. So when he speaks to the people, when he speaks to his people, he's speaking to them, requesting them to do everything they can within a specific timeline. And you will see some of those actions. And please, feel free to follow up, and some of those updates that we have, we'll share them with you. And to do with the cases, besides, you can also connect with the team at the Ministry of Justice. I can tell you the team there, you have almost all of the offices have their public affairs department, or even some of them are your colleagues, or people that you know you've worked with before, you know, and they will give you some of these active and hard facts that you can also counter check. But again, thank you all so much for this time, and we look forward to connecting. Good afternoon.